Hello, how are you? How is the sound? It doesn't sound very good. Hello, how are you? How is the sound? It doesn't. Okay, I just watched myself. I think it sounds okay. Do we sound okay? Hello, hi Luke Fish, how are you? I think we're okay. It's loud. I don't know how to fix that. Oh, yikes. Hi, thank you, Steven. Super nice of you. Okay, someone just said it was loud. That was because I was turned all the way up. It's good now. Okay, cool. Thank you, Steven. Thank you very much. We good. Okay, cool. Thank you, Lukefish. I don't know why that was turned all the way up. That was too much. Way too much. Okay, Happy New Year, everyone. I hope your New Year was very well. It's a bit of a slow news week to be expected. It's the beginning of the new year, so the main stories are. Hello, how are you? So the main stories are there's been a huge story about Joe Rogan. So there was this episode of Joe Rogan, and he's interviewing a doctor. And the thing about Joe Rogan is he never has a clear opinion on everything. His show is solely about interviewing people and asking questions. So he had a show with a doctor, and a lot of people did not like his opinions. So the episode of his show got censored very heavily on big tech. So Joe Rogan made an announcement that, hey guys, I'm going on Getter. And he made this shift to Getter. And in the same day that he announced that he was going on Getter, 170 people also went to Getter, which I am not on that platform yet. I'm not always for like just rushing to a platform and going there, but it just says something about big tech. A little early in the night for your Joyless Reid had enough. Haven't had enough to drink yet. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to ruin your night. This was mainly going to be a poking fun at Joyless Reid. But there's been a big awakening, I believe, when it comes to social media and when it comes to the censorship. Hi, Glenn Allen. How are you? I hope you're doing well. Excuse me. I have had I have had a cold over the holiday. I am totally okay. It's not the COVID, but I have had a cold, so please excuse me. Thank you, Max. I hope you're doing well. So anyway, let's look at what Joy Reid had to say about this. But it's been an eye opener as far as social media, as far as censorship, and as far as where the general public's head is. You know, Bill Burr, he's a comedian. He once said, and he was joking when he said this, but I do think there's a lot of truth to it. He said, you know what? I think 80% of us are pretty chill. 85% of us are pretty chill. I think it's about 15% of us that are very far left and very far right. The 85% of us are like, can everyone just calm the F down? And I really do think that's where most of us are. Hi, Mandy. Thank you for joining. So it says, in a stunning lack of self-awareness, MSNBC host Joy Reid and her guest on Monday night suggested that a white so-called Christian conservatives are selfish people, because those are the people who are really shaping the world today. They're really shaping society today, are the white Christian conservatives, because they are the ones that have control. She goes on to say they're white so-called Christian conservatives who feel like this country was built by them, for them, their party, the Republicans, is merely a party of selfish people who cannot play well with others. They even have their own cable networks. She then compared Christian conservatives to classic Star Trek character named Charlie, whom she described as an annoying alien incel who destroys everything around him when he doesn't get his way. Reid claimed that the white Christian conservative wrongly believed this country was being taken away from them. A certain percentage of Americans feel like a country used to focus on them and fixate on them, and they were the main character, and now they feel they are not the main character, and they don't always win, and they don't always get to do what they want, and they don't have to get their way. It's an outrage. It's all a crime. Everything must be overturned. So it goes back to the way they thought it should be, she said in a stream of consciousness. Thank you, Mandy, so much for the $5 super chat. That was very sweet. I just saw that go back. It goes on to say, after Reid laid the blame on Christian conservatives, Tom Nichols of The Atlantic followed up on Reid's comments, saying, "We take offense at everything and embrace a culture of narcissism," speaking of Christian conservatives. He said this was to fill a yawning, gaping hole where spirituality used to be for a lot of people. That has become religion of the self. The idea that previous generations took pleasure, a civic pride, a pleasure in civic virtue, by serving others, by being selfless, by being stoic, by not constantly talking about your sense of grievance and your sense of anger and outrage, that is completely alien to multiple generations of now Americans who are all good about vocalizing sense of loss, even though they haven't lost anything, Nichols said. The irony is that a lot of people storming these barricades that have nothing taken away from them, they've been told they've had things taken away from them and their acceptance, their embracing of the notion that has been giving life to something of meaning. The Star Trek character that you referenced is eternal adolescent, which is what we have become in this country. We are eternally adolescent. We have offense at everything. We look for a reason to take offense. We have no pleasure in adulthood anymore, said Nichols, as Joy Reid and Michael Eric Dyson nod knowingly. Reid found Nichols' words so insightful that she tweeted them in a video panel hours later. This is such a solid point. We are a bored country full of people seeking some sort of meaning, which folks used to get from religion or from the simple joy of doing the right thing and contributing to the community. And the biggest complainers have lost nothing. That's so interesting to me because that is often a critique of the left. And that is one of my critiques of the left, is that a lot of people on the left are so focused on grievance and they're so focused on looking internally that they're not focused on the external. They're not focused on looking at, well, what can I do to contribute to society? How can I make society better? Instead, they focus inward and they're like, how can society make me better? How can society focus to make me feel better about myself and to validate my opinion of myself? And it's really interesting that they're focusing this back on the right, because the Christian, this goes to show their misunderstanding of Christians. Because if you're a Christian, you actually do go to church and you actually do focus on things that are outside of yourself, and you do focus on charity work and things of that nature. Christian conservatives wrongly believe the country has been taken away from them. I don't think they believe, and here's the thing. So Reid claims, and this is important to look at this because this is what probably a lot of people on the left think. And Reid is someone who's a bit cray-cray and who's a bit far left. Christians believe that the country is being taken away from them. No, that's not what it is. It's not that Christians believe the country is being taken away from them. It's that people that when your party is trying to pass bills where people that are here illegally have the right to vote, when your country is when your party is trying to pass bills where people that are here illegally are entitled to a certain amount of money, when your country is trying to pass when your party is trying to pass bills where people that are here illegally are entitled to all of these things that are being taken away from the people that are here legally, it makes sense that not Christian conservatives, but that people here legally feel like things are being taken away from them. And what the left tries to do a lot is anyone that is opposed to their ideas all of a sudden becomes well, now they're using different terminology, but they all of a sudden become a right winger, a far right person. Now they're a Christian conservative. Instead of just saying they're probably an average American who doesn't agree with your far leftist ideas. They're literally trying to pass legislation that makes it okay for someone here illegally to be able to vote in elections, which in my opinion is voter suppression. Because that person that is not here legally, if they are able to legally vote, that cancels out someone that is here legally. That cancels out their vote. So it's not that a Christian conservative is scared that things are going to change, that things are going to be taken away from them. It's that the average American is saying, okay, this is not okay. Yep, divide us. And this is a tactic that they use to divide and conquer. They want you to think that the people opposed to these things are an extremist. They want you to think that, because if you think that the people that are opposed to these things are extremists, then you might think, oh my gosh, I'm opposed to this thing. Am I an extremist? I don't want to be an extremist. No, I can't be opposed to this thing. And all the people that are extremists, so I can't agree with them. Divide and conquer. That's exactly what they do. Conservatives are a party of selfish people. Conservatives are not a party of selfish people. Conservatives are actually a party of people that say that we need values in our country. Maybe we should go back to church. The party of the narcissist is the party that's obsessed with gender identity. That's the party that's obsessed with, you need to know my pronouns, otherwise I'm going to be upset. It's the party that's obsessed with, I'm a demisexual / binary / this and that and this label. That's the party, in my opinion, that maybe needs some church and needs Jesus. And I'm not even a super religious person. I have never been before this year, but I recognize how inward we have been looking as a society to fix our problems, and we need to be looking outward. You know, if you're hurting inside, if you're confused about your identity, maybe go volunteer somewhere and help someone else instead of worrying about your pronoun or what you are on the sexual spectrum, which I don't even know what that is anymore. I'm so confused. I'm so confused when it comes to that. So it's just interesting that Joy Reid has a bit of the same argument. A cup of Jesus and a shot of Jerusalem. You know, and a lot of the it's interesting. So there were some numbers that came out today. Joe Biden, surprise, surprise, his approval rating is at another low today. Whoa, surprise. Like, how did we predict that, right? So his approval ratings were at another low, and previously he has talked about his approval ratings, and one of the things that he said was that it's a misinformation. It's a lot of people who don't really understand their situation, and they're being told all of these Armageddon lies that are not true. And what it really is, it's people, and a lot of people that are moderate Democrats, and they're just looking around and they're saying, what in the heck is going on? He recently admitted in a press conference that his friend was at his house, empty shelves Joe. Exactly. They're looking around and there's empty shelves. They're looking around and everything is more expensive. Even Joe Biden admit that beef is about $5 a pound now, where a year ago it was less than $1 than that. The same with gas prices. Little Caesars just announced today, you guys, that their $5 hot and ready pizza for the first time in 25 years is no longer the $5 hot and ready pizza. It is now the $5.25 hot and ready pizza, or whatever it is. And maybe a few more cents don't mean a lot to you, but for someone that, but when you add all of that together, that means a lot. Someone commented on one of my videos today, and they said, a year ago, my groceries cost $200. So maybe that's like $200 every 2 weeks. And then he said, a few months ago, they cost $240. And then the other week, the same groceries cost $270. I don't know if this is true, but I'm sure all of us have felt this increase. So that little bit affects you a great deal. Imagine spending $200 twice a month. So that's $400 a month on groceries. And then that jumps to $270. That's a lot of extra money that you're spending on groceries. And if you are a middle class to even upper middle class to lower middle class household, imagine how that feels. And that's just groceries. That's not gas. So for Joe Biden to say that that's a misunderstanding, of course he would see it as a misunderstanding because gas prices and grocery prices, he has no idea what he spends on gas and groceries. I guarantee you Jill has no idea what they spend on gas and groceries. They don't care about that. The only thing that matters to them is politics. They don't care about the average cost of groceries and gas, and they don't care what it does to the lower and middle class because they are not surrounded by the lower and middle class at all. I watched this really interesting video recently on the psychology of people that grow up in an elite class. And they don't think about the normal problems. And this is what's so interesting about Donald Trump. You could say Donald Trump was an elitist, but he wasn't necessarily in the elite class. A lot of people say that Donald Trump is very wealthy, but Donald Trump always stayed very aware of the middle class and what was going on with his workers. And I think this was a part of his mentality that came from being a business owner. The whole idea of a border wall came from the fact that Donald Trump went down to the border and he asked the Border Patrol agents, what do you guys need? What would help make your job better? And that was a part of him being a business owner. And they told him. So he had the idea to implement a border wall. A border wall is not perfect. It doesn't solve everything, but it helps a lot. And even if it doesn't completely deter crossings where the border wall is, it will give people the time. It will give the Border Patrol agents the time to be able to get to said area and take care of said problem, even if it doesn't totally deter crossings, which a lot of the argument is, oh, it doesn't totally deter all the crossings. Well, it gives them time. But anyway, this video that I watched, it was by a psychologist, and it went into the psychology of people that grow up ultra wealthy. And I don't know about Biden's early upbringing, but I do know that Joe Biden, Jill Biden, and many in that camp have been surrounded by ultra wealthy for and the political class for a large majority of Biden's political career. I know that Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer have been surrounded by an ultra wealthy class their entire political career. And I know that that can very much skew your understanding of the average person and what that person's needs are. And when you're around that class for an extended period of time, that skews that vision even more. So you push forth policy ideas that maybe appease your friends, it maybe appeases the class that you're around, but it's not something that helps average Americans. Just like an average American cannot fathom what it feels like to be ultra wealthy and to be within that class. Somebody within that class cannot fathom to think what it would be like to be in a middle or lower class. And that's the problem. I read something recently that was like, never trust someone that's never been poor or that's never had a blue collar job. And I believe that. I wouldn't either. It's I'll tell you what, I've worked amongst that class before, and they're some of the most boring people. Not everyone, but if you've never had like a real job, if you've never experienced adversity in a certain way, like you don't grow up developing like a strong character. And I'd much rather be around someone with a strong character than someone that has no character. They've never had to develop any character. They've never faced any kind of real adversity. They've never had to worry about anything, which it's not their fault, but you don't develop a certain type of character. So I think about that, though. I think about people that have been in the political elite class for a long time. How in the heck would they understand their world is around people that say yes to them? Their world is surrounded by people who are lobbyists, who have money, who give them their money, who want something out of them. How do you expect them to be good leaders? I think, and that was the difference between President Trump. He didn't, and this is what people that are against President Trump, this is what they don't understand about Trump. Trump didn't need the elite class. Okay, yes, he was a very wealthy man, but he didn't need them. He didn't need their money. He didn't need the lobbyists. And he actually, whether or not you agree with everything that he did, he worked for the people. He didn't work for the politicians. And that's why they went bananas when he got in office. And that's why they were so desperate to get him out of office. Because he was going to ruin everything. And you don't have to be a genius to figure that out. You just have to have eyeballs and get your emotions out of the whole thing and look at it from a bird's eye view. And it's so perfectly crystal clear. Wow, I was going to talk about news today, and then I just went off into so many tangents. Sounds like Sarah's ready to run for office. Yeah, he created his own wealth along the way. I respect people that came from nothing and built something so much more than I will listen to someone that came from a lot of wealth and never experienced anything. Now, there are some people that came from a lot of wealth and they have experienced something. I don't want to say who it was, but there was someone that I was friends with in Hollywood, and she had a very famous dad, like very like old rock star money, like a very, very famous person. And I had a lot of respect for her dad because her dad actually made her go live in a third world country with a family, and she helped them build businesses. and that's what she did for a while, but he actually made her go and live somewhere and experience. You have families like the Kardashians, and okay, they're very rich, they're very wealthy, whatever. But they grow up not experiencing anything, not knowing how anyone outside of their bubble lives. And they influence so many young girls, and they influence so much of society. But they have never experienced anything outside of their bubble. They have never been to college. They've never lived in a dorm. Yes, they've been to other countries, but they've been to other countries inside of their bubble. They have never experienced anything outside of their bubble. And so many young people look up to them. But they know nothing about life. They know nothing about how the average person lives. And that's how people don't understand this about celebrities. Yes, you can appreciate celebrities. You can appreciate the movies they put out there or the music that they put out there. But you must understand that they do not live like 99% of society lives. So when they get on their platforms and they talk about politics, why in the world would you listen to their ideas about politics? I'll give you an example of this. Lady Gaga. And you also have to understand that sometimes some of the stories that they have, there is so much nepotism in Hollywood. There is so much nepotism. And back in the day, studios would contract actors and actresses, and they would cultivate stories. So they would make up stories about their childhood. What makes you think they don't do that nowadays? To some extent. Not everyone, but I'm sure some people. But they will make up stories to make their stars more marketable and more likable. They will make up their discover stories and how they came to be. So what makes you think they don't do that to some extent nowadays? Back in the day, they would change everyone's name. Rita Hayworth had her name changed. Marilyn Monroe had her name changed. Cary Grant had his name changed. Like, everyone had their name changed. What makes you think they don't do that now? And then these stars have the nerve to get on their soapboxes and tell people how to vote when they have no idea anything about politics. They have no idea anything about how people live. Here's an example. Lady Gaga was very vocal in the 2020 election, very vocal about people voting for Joe Biden. She was also very vocal when Donald Trump got elected. She led the night that he got elected. She led this huge protest, and she was in the door of this 18-wheeler, and it was this big dramatic moment, and all these dramatic pictures were taken, and she was just living her truth, right? and protesting. And she was very public about her disdain for Donald Trump throughout his presidency. And then the 2020 election came around, and she was very pro Joe Biden. She had a few little viral clips go out of her urging people to get out there and vote, and urging people to vote for Biden. There was this one infamous clip where, if I could find it for you, oh my gosh, I would love to play it. But she was outside of this tractor trailer, and she drank a beer, and then she smashed. She didn't even chug it right. By the way, if you don't chug a beer right and you're get off the camera. So she chugged this beer, and then she dropped it, and she was like, "You got to get out and vote," or whatever it was that she wanted to say. But it was so cringy and so awkward and so forced. Well, anyway, she was so vocal about voting for Joe Biden. And I actually watched an interview with her recently where someone asked her, why should we vote for Joe Biden? Okay. And let me just say this. I am not opposed to a celebrity having an opinion. I know I just had that whole rant, and now I'm saying this. Robert Malone's Mass Formation Psychosis is very creepy. Reminds me of the movie They Live. Oh, thank you, Steven, so much. I'll get to that in just a second. I am not opposed to someone having an opinion if they're actually educated on that opinion and if they can tell you why they have that opinion, okay? Even if you're a celebrity, even if we don't live the same way, you know, if you have an opinion, have your opinion, but tell me why you have your opinion. So Lady Gaga has this staunch opinion throughout the entire election, and then someone asked her in an interview, why should we vote for Biden? And you know what she did? It was so funny. So funny. If I can find this clip, I will put it in a video. She sat there and it was an uncomfortable silence for a good few seconds. And it was the type of silence where you know she had nothing to say. So she just sat there. Because America is racist. That was her answer. That is why you should never listen to celebrities. They clearly have influence from someone, and if they have an opinion, fine. If they can tell you exactly why they have that opinion, maybe listen to them. But this is how most celebrities are. Tell me why you think that way. I am not stupid. I am not going to just listen to you just because your name is Lady Gaga. Tell me why you have that opinion. And if you can do that, okay, I'll consider it. But the thing is, 99.9% of them cannot do that. And my phone is going to die. Let me ask you a question. I might have to... Hold on. I might have to pick this up later. Okay, answer me this question. If I do this, is my sound okay? I don't think it is. Hold on, but answer me this question. Is this sound okay or is it off right now? The first time I listened to it, it was off. It was making a funny sound. It's not okay. Someone said, I sound like an old-timey radio. Okay, then I'll have to get off in about 5 minutes. Somebody brought up mass formation psychosis, and this has to do with an interview that Joe Rogan gave. And it's this idea that we have lost our sense of individuality, and we just listen to the government no matter what they say. Didn't know about Marilyn Monroe, Sarah. Oh, Marilyn Monroe, yeah. Marilyn Monroe, her name is Norma Jean. Rita Hayworth, that wasn't her name. Oh, Jack Murphy. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. What time is it? It's 9:15. Oh gosh, yeah, I know all about Jack Murphy, and I've seen some things. You know what's interesting? The Republican Party the past few years has attracted a lot of grifters. A lot of people who have been shunned out of their communities, and they have grifted into this cancel culture because they know that if they come into the Republican Party and if they say, I got canceled for this reason, it can't be unseen. They can come into the Republican Party. This is Nicole. I'm sorry to say this, but Nicole Arbour's a grifter. Not as bad as Jack Murphy, but she is one too. So they say that they got canceled, but really they got found out. Something happened, And then they'll come into the Republican Party and they'll use the whole cancellation thing to say, you know, I got canceled, and they'll have this big story, but they kind of fudge the story a little bit, and they're just total grifters. And the thing about Jack Murphy is, okay, you have a past. I'll tell the full story later on for those of you that don't know what happened. Jack Murphy, he's someone that some of you might not know who he is. He's been on Timcast a few times. I don't know a whole lot about him, but he has this like whole like men's thing where he teaches men how to be men. And come to find he's a fraud. Like he's just not who he says that he is. Come to find he has an article from back in the day where he was having his girlfriend go out and have relations with other men, which is fine. Okay, you did that back in the day. But also, there was some stuff that came out that he has, like, internet porn with his girlfriend. And there's some really insane stuff on this. And this was back in, like, 2019, so it wasn't that long ago. But he's teaching men how to be, like, good family men and good fathers and, like, all that kind of stuff, and all of these things are coming up, and they're not from that long ago. So it seems to be that he might be not very honest about who he is, and he's charging men $100 a month to be in his program. I did go down the Jack Murphy rabbit hole, and that was not a fun rabbit hole to go down. There's a lot of things that I've seen that I will never unsee. No. Mandy said Jack Murphy is on Timcast right now. You're kidding. No, he isn't. No, Mandy. No, he isn't. Is he? Oh, he isn't. Okay. He was a few days ago after this whole thing. Maybe we'll get into that on a different, because I don't like to talk about those sort of things, but there is, I've seen this several times where I've seen people really grift into the Republican space because of this cancel culture thing. And this is the second person I've seen this happen to. And the funny thing is, Sydney Watson, she made a video about this. You give someone enough of their own rope, they will eventually hang themselves. And that's what happened with Jack Murphy. And the interesting thing about his situation is at first it started with him just reacting very inappropriately to Sydney Watson reading a super chat on a podcast, and it could have just went away. The whole thing could have just blown over, but because he reacted so poorly, and because he continued to react so poorly, all of these people found out all of these things from his past, and it became public, and it was because he reacted so poorly. If he just would have let this stuff go from the very beginning, no one would have known any of this. And Sydney said it in her video, and I'll say it again. You give someone enough of their own rope, they will hang themselves. A lot of grifters use the cancel culture thing to get into the Republican space because they know Republicans are empathetic, just like leftists are empathetic to victimhood. Republicans are empathetic to cancel culture. So they use that. They get canceled and join the right, or get canceled by the right. They get canceled and join the right. I've seen several people do this. Because just like I said, leftists are very empathetic towards victims. The right is very empathetic towards people that get canceled. So a lot of people that get kind of shunned in their own space because, and maybe it was for a legitimate reason, maybe it was just a market response to, okay, you're not who you say you are. I don't want your product anymore. I don't want to watch you anymore. I don't want to be your fan anymore. So I'm not going to do your thing anymore. And then they'll come to the right and they'll say, oh, I got canceled. They canceled me because of this. I've seen Jack Murphy is the second major person I've seen do this. So they come over to the right and they grift and they use all the right talking points and they get money out of people and they get fame and they make their rounds on all the right talk shows or the right podcasts, and that's what they do. I'm not saying that's exactly what Jack Murphy did. I'm just saying that's allegedly. Do you know who Nick Fuentes is? You know what, Steven? I don't know who Nick Fuentes is. I've heard about him. But I'll tell you what, I will look him up. Who's the first major person? The first major person that I saw, and this might not be like a major person to a lot of people because I sort of joined the party a little late, but it was Nicole Arbor. I don't know if you know who Nicole Arbor was, but she made her rounds on a lot. She was on the Candace Owens show, interviewed by Glenn Beck and all of these people, and I knew her before she started having Republican talking points because she made a viral video on YouTube, and she's sort of a grifter. She says things to make her go viral or to be controversial, or she knows how. She's a genius marketer, but she basically got exposed, and maybe I can go more into this on a different show, but long story short, she actually got exposed on the Candace Owens show because her and Candace got into it and she tried to call out Candace. And the thing is, you know, whether you love Candace or you don't love her, if you go after Candace Owens, you better be prepared and you better come with your best game. And Nicole made a mistake because, again, you give someone enough of their own rope, they will eventually hang themselves. But I know a lot about Candace Owens just because I made a different kind of YouTube videos a long time ago, and Nicole Arbor also made a different kind of YouTube videos. Of course, she was like way more popular than me, but she made her Dear Fat People video, and I remember that, and she tried to use that as people are canceling me, but really it wasn't a funny video. It wasn't comedic. It was super grifty and super like, I'm trying to be controversial. Fuentes is a little crazy, but is the best. He is an occultist libertarian. Okay, I'll look that up. Steven. Thank you. But no matter what space you're in, there will be people that, funny, coming into the conservative space for money and actually have, there's a lot of honest, real people, and then there was a lot of people that, and this was when she was already doing comedy. Yes, and Nicole Arbor also calls herself a comedian, but I know the comedic space a little bit too. I used to live right next to the Comedy Store, and I was really into I'm not a comedian, but I am very much into comedy, and she would call herself a comedian and pretend like she was really respected in the comedic space, but she was in fact not. A lot of comedians, like a lot of like respected comedians, do not respect Nicole Arbor as a legitimate comedian. So I'll say that. So this is someone that came into a new space, tried to rebrand herself because she didn't work in a different space, and tried to use, whatever like talking points or grifty points you can use in that space to gain an audience and to gain respect. And that may or may not be what Jack Murphy did. I don't know. But I've seen this happen several times. And you just have to be careful. And I say that not to call people out or to shame people or to be like dramatic, but to say, because people follow these individuals and they think they're legitimate. So it's important to be able to, I think, spot these things sometimes.